Up on the Sac City Podcast. Familiar faces in new places. The Wild Wild West takes on a new meaning in 2022. We have a full breakdown on the AFC West. All that and more next on the Sac City Podcast.
Good morning, Sac City. Welcome into another episode of the Sac City Podcast. I'm your host, the one and only Vinny Milani, joined as always by your boy, AJ Johnson. Below him, we have my best friend in the whole entire world, live from some random football stadium in
That's Franklin High.
Wherever he may be. He is Aaron, the Mukesiah Mukes. And beside him, he is the smoothest voice in sports casting, the reigning, the defending, and the undisputed heavyweight valedictorian of the show. He is Dylan Kearns. It is a beautiful July 27th morning here in the city. Aaron, please, where are you? Where are you coming from? And
I'm in Georgia.
Over there. Oh, okay.
I'm in Georgia, baby. Down south here in Georgia. You know what I do. I rep in Georgia, ATL, you know, Albany, you know how we do.
Why? What's the area code?
31721 or something like that.
Hey, shout out to the 317.
Hey, but real talk, I mean, it's football down south. It doesn't matter what stadium I'm in. We hit down here. We got hard hitters. We breed talent. It's what we do down here in the south. That's right. I'm a regular old Georgian now.
Shout out Rashad.
Interesting.
Can I tell you guys a story?
Something.
I got a call last night. It was almost midnight from some dude on my work phone talking about fishing and catching largemouth bass. Do you guys know anything about that? He called. He said, hey, I know what I like watching the show every day. The fishing game forecast, and I'm trying to catch me a largemouth bass because I got to feed the kids, and the kids are good or whatever. Like, I didn't understand a word that was being said, and then found out today that it was some lonely people in South Carolina that had nothing better to do than to call my work phone.
Yeah, remember when Babu staged up about time one bird ball?
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Yeah. That's probably what he sounded. He probably sounded like the dude from the. That's great. That's great. Well, we've got a great show ahead of us, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 58 is about to kick off. We are diving into the AFC West and the training camp preview for the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Broncos. But before we do that, let's head into our morning headlines. AJ, you added this to the doc, and I want to let you take this one over. It's Kyler Murray, and the news today yesterday that took over the headlines was that this really, really weird part of his big contract that he just got from the Arizona Cardinals. Can you elaborate on what that is and what your thoughts are on it?
Yeah. So Kyler Murray, as we know, just got a $230 million deal, $160 million guaranteed. And I remember last week saying I was curious on why they didn't give it to him fully guaranteed. And this small addendum may have something to do with that. They have mandated that Kyler Murray has to do 4 hours of independent film study per game week of every week of the NFL. They gave this man the Jamarcus Russell rule, and I never saw it coming. This kind of goes back to what they were talking about when all the conversations about Kyler Murray first came out, and he wants his money, and they were hesitant to give it to him, and then all these character issues came up. They were worried about his commitment. They go all the way back to the draft. Did he want to play football? Did he want to play baseball? Is he a big gamer now? To have something like this in your contract where you have to mandate that you have to spend 4 hours. Think about that. That's not even an hour a day just being in the NFL, you should think that you're spending more than 4 hours a week studying for the game you're about to prepare. This is not a good look. One, it's not a good look that it happened privately. Two, it's not a good look that somebody made it that public. So now that everybody in the world, your organization, your fan base, your teammates in that locker room, all look at this and see this as a big deal, that you may not be that committed to the game, that they had to put this in your contract. And one other big thing, and I'm not the first to bring this up, I'm not going to take full credit, but it's a very big piece. Something like this could have a very big effect on the black quarterback. And I'm not just saying that as a black man, but if you think about it, they have always talked about the black quarterback may not be smart enough to play the position. He's just seen as an athlete. They don't study or know the position well enough. So now you have this little knock on the quarterback like that. You can use stuff like this for every quarterback coming up afterwards, whether or not you know it yet, but just as a precursor. And I think that's a big step back. So every time we look at Kyler Murray this year, and if he's not up to par, this little addendum is going to play a role in media pundits and people's thought process on what may happen with Kyler Murray. And I think that might be a big deal going forward.
Great points, AJ. Great points. I don't want to be the one to disagree. I'll just say this. I personally don't care. I think this is being blown out of proportion. I think this is something that we've seen this before. This is not the first time a player's had a weird, funky addendum in their contract to keep them from doing certain things or making them do certain things. I've seen stuff from you can't bungee jump for guys that are daredevils so they don't get injured, to you need to go here, you need to do this. This to me is just something they put in the contract, and maybe they feel like he has outside influences and things other than football that he is going to kind of compete with his football studying. And listen, he's not the first quarterback that's been accused of maybe not putting enough time of his own time into the game. And this is where I think that we need to make this very clear. We have got to be careful about what we stigmatize somebody with outside of what they are supposed to do for their job. If I told you, AJ, your job is from 8 to 5 and you're working 8 to 5, but you know what? If you really want to be great at your job, maybe you need to do 2 hours outside of your job, but you choose not to, and you're 8 to 5 and you're great during that 8 to 5. I can't knock you for being great during 8 to 5. The ones that separates the greatest of all time is the guys that's going to put in the 2 hours extra work. The Kobe Bryant's who's in the gym 2 hours before the guys are supposed to be. I'm not going to knock a guy because he doesn't want to make his job his life. And so I am very careful about what this contract is saying. Putting 4 hours of independent study, they already do film study. 4 hours now a week is not that much. You're right. But that's 4 hours away from his family, 4 hours away from things he wants to do off the field. And by no means am I saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that we can't look at football any different than we look at any other job. And for everybody that wants to criticize him as a fan, I will look to you and say, well, you know what? If you want to be great at your job and get paid more, you're the one that's crying about your wage. I want to see you put in 4 hours extra a week doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. And that's my biggest issue. That's it.
I think that's kind of how in the working world, and maybe this is like us as like the working class of people. Like if I were to go up to my job and say, hey, I want a raise, I want to bump up in pay, my boss is damn sure going to tell me what I need to do and add something onto my role to make me earn that raise and deserve that extra pay. And that's what I'm seeing here. Now, the other side of this that I saw today that people were chattering about was the disrespect, the possible disrespect to Kyler Murray of you're saying he has to spend more time in the film room, whereas like if you were to go up to someone like, and this is a little bit of an aggressive thing, but like a Tom Brady, if Bill Belichick ever came up to Tom Brady and said, hey, we're going to pay you a little bit more, but you have to spend 4 hours in the film room, even like a Kirk Cousins, then there would be like the big time disrespect factor of, hey, I feel like you're shitting on me because I'm already doing all this stuff. What do you mean I got to spend 4 more hours?
But that's the difference. Those are the guys you never have to say that to. They are feeling like Kyler Murray, and I get what you're saying, like work is work or whatever, but again, this is salary. This isn't hourly. Like, yeah, you may walk out that building, but like as an NFL player, as a professional football, as a quarterback, as QB1, as a first overall, this isn't stuff we should be hoping you're doing. We should be asking why you're not coming in and showing us more film work. Like, they're saying they don't even feel like he's looking at the tapes outside of that. They don't really Jamarcus Russell.
No, I don't think. See, I think that's what's being inferred and implied. I don't think that's what's actually happening.
There's been a lot of questions about his commitment to it, though.
They did not commitment to being just a football player. It's not the same thing as saying we don't feel like you're doing your due diligence in the film room. I think that's two completely different conversations. We assume because they put this addendum in the contract that he was lacking something there. And I don't know that to be the case. Sometimes there are funky things that teams put in contracts that we never even hear about. And I find it very odd that we're hearing about this. But am I complaining for Kyler Murray? No. The man got $200 and something million. Well, he signed it. Remember this. He signed the contract. So he was okay with what that addendum that they put in there because he signed it. So I just don't want to go crazy over it.
Like they say, it's in default if he doesn't do it. But let's say he does. Like, what are they gonna do? Like,
if he refused that addendum, guess what? They would have given the contract without it.
But I mean, like in week 9, if he's like, oh, I didn't do it, are they gonna say, well, we're not paying you, and then he doesn't play? They're not gonna do that.
There's an out there for them. That's all.
That's my question here. Is it just the honor system? Why is it there? Like, how can they track if he's done 4 hours? They're going to throw something on a computer and time him or something?
It's on a team device. It's on a team device.
Yep.
Okay. So, like, they can tell.
Come on now. We all know. You can go in there and just hit play and be playing PlayStation over here. Yeah. The fact of the matter is that's why I think this is irrelevant. This coming out, whoever decided to put this out, it goes to show you what was going on in that organization all offseason. People putting things out that they really didn't have any business putting out there. To me, it's just another talking point. And I didn't want AJ to go here, man. It's so frustrating. I didn't want this to be a conversation about the black quarterback because I don't really think it is. I think this is just a matter of a team that has always been very frugal. Let's make that very clear. They don't like paying guys. They're always reluctant to do it. I think this just says, you know what? Let's put an out in here somewhere. Some kind of out. Yeah. The man loves baseball. He loves doing other things. Let's make sure there's something in here that we can kind of hold him accountable with. And I think that's really it. I don't think it's that big.
And I just want to say, and I know you weren't saying directly that I was saying that. I don't think the Cardinals put that in there because he's a black quarterback. But I do believe that there are other bigwigs in the NFL who could look at something like this and use it in the future against a black quarterback. I think it allows a precedent to possibly be set. I'm not saying that's why Arizona did it, but I do think it will allow that conversation to be had once again when we finally felt we were getting closer and closer to being past that.
The reason I don't like that statement is because you look at the top quarterbacks in the league. Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott. Yeah. Those are all black quarterbacks that are making the most money across the NFL. Different. So, and they're not the same quarterbacks, though. They're not like just some mobile guys that run. Lamar Jackson's about to get paid. That we as black men, I think we've kind of moved on from the black quarterback stigma. That we know there's still black coach stigmas and all this, general managers, all that stuff. But you can't deny these players now. There's no keeping the black quarterback off the field because they do everything of what today's NFL requires. So it's hard to have that conversation of you're not smart enough, you're not this enough, because the guys now don't fall into those categories of a Jamarcus Russell or, the previous guys, Achilles Smith and all those guys.
One more thing to leave you thinking here on this Arizona Cardinals topic. They could also be thinking like this is a team that fell apart and pissed down their legs the last 2 seasons. They want to make sure that, hey, he's actually in the room, making sure that any sort of extra work is done because they can't collapse again. Otherwise, more shit's going down.
You guys brought up Lamar Jackson. I guarantee you that when Lamar Jackson goes to go talk more about his contract, he's like, just add this bad boy into the list of why I should be getting paid more than Kyler Murray. That's what it's gonna come down to. Two more little notes on headlines here. We're gonna make these 2 quick. Julio Jones is returning to the NFC South to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to team up with Tom Brady. Real quick, gentlemen, I'm going to go around the horn. Give me your stat predictions for Julio Jones. We had a little chat today in our group text talking about this, and I wanted to go on record right now what you guys think Julio Jones' stat is going to be this season. Dylan, I'll start with you.
I think he has 48 catches. 48 catches, 497 yards, and 1 touchdown.
I gave you guys mine earlier. 45, 450, and 3 touchdowns.
AJ?
Irrelevant year.
I'll go a little different from what I said earlier, as I was just trying to annoy Aaron a little bit. But I am gonna go a little higher. I'm gonna go 55 receptions. I'm gonna go 650 yards, and I'm gonna go 4 touchdowns.
I will go 57 receptions for 669 yards and 5 touchdowns. Yeah, I said it.
I mean, a couple of things aren't in his favor. Chris Godwin getting cleared for training camp doesn't help him.
Nope. So, but real quick though, and please make this very quick. And Aaron, I'm going to go to you. Russell Gage fantasy, real quick. Does this do anything to damper his hype train?
Nope.
No, nothing at all.
Hope it does for people who don't pay attention.
The great thing is say Julio is ready for the beginning of the year. Whatever. He'll play outside maybe to start. But he can't do what Russell Gage does. And I'm telling you right now, Russell Gage fits Tom Brady better than Julio Jones does. If you can argue with me to the death, but look at Tom Brady's history and the guys he likes to throw to, Russell Gage's skill set fits that. Chris Godwin's skill set fits that. And Mike Evans is just Mike Evans. And Julio, I'm sorry, you're not Mike Evans anymore. You're not of that caliber on the outside. He's going to have to win one-on-one matchups. And I don't know that Julio can do that consistently anymore because of him slowing down. That's all.
Funny thing is that Russell Gage was buried behind Julio 2 years ago.
Yeah. It all comes back around. Russell Gage is going to walk past him right in the line to Tom Brady's heart and say, bye, bitch.
You say buried. I'll say 2 years ago he had almost 800 yards, and I wouldn't call that buried. I think that was more than Julio had.
Yeah, he did a productive year. But, I mean, it was him and Ridley, and, I mean, no one was watching Falcons games.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like he's been with Julio at this point in Julio and produced.
Correct.
One more bit of headline here. Chris Carson of the Seattle Seahawks, the running back, former 7th-round pick in the 2017 draft, has officially retired. He obviously battling that neck injury. It's just something that he was not able to come back from. Aaron, you called it
last year, fantasy season, when I traded him.
To me.
To Dylan.
Oh, no.
I
think it was to me. I think I ended up with Chris Carson. And then I ended up giving him to Dylan
Robinson, you clown.
Yeah. I said that I didn't think Chris Carson would ever play football again, and it's sad, man. He wasn't the best running back, but the years that he played, and you watch his style of running, that's the guy you just rooted for. The way he ran real hard. It's sad that he, suffered the neck injury and couldn't overcome that. But I think you saw this. I think the writing was on the wall. I think you saw this last year. I think you saw it when they drafted Kenneth Walker and re-signed a Rashad Penny. I don't think they do that if they felt confident in Chris Carson being able to come back.
Yeah, definitely. And we wish nothing but the best for Chris Carson in the future. He didn't officially announce, and he won't officially announce a retirement, and hopes to be able to have a miracle happen with his neck. And who knows? Anything could happen. We wish him nothing but the best. AJ, need a social read, pay the bills before we get into our AFC West training camp preview. Break it down, Saya.
Ladies, gentlemen.
Well, there we go. It happened again. I will take over the social read. Please check us out at Sac City Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and the TikTok. If you haven't checked us out lately, make sure you get back on the TikTok and the YouTube. We got some short ones out there. It's happening. Be sure to check us out on all those social media platforms. Audio podcast available on all your audio platforms as well. And good morning, Sac City. That's right. Wednesday through Friday. Sac City's in your house. 10 a.m. Eastern time. Good morning, Sac City. #GMSC.
Is it just like when you play music, my audio just decides to just change or something?
Hey, listen,
Nothing.
I'm as a professional, I am used to things being messed up in the studio. That's why I just jumped in there and had to finish it.
Jesus.
Wow.
AJ, we'll give you another shot. The Kansas City Chiefs training camp has been underway. Lots have been going on. One player who has not shown up is Orlando Brown. What is the state of the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line in this year's training camp?
We talked a little bit about this a couple weeks ago, and at that point in time, we didn't think it was too big a deal. We thought, it's an older guy by standards of the NFL, just taking his rest and will be ready to go. But as I looked more into it, it's starting to sound a lot more like there's some serious frustration. Like with having Orlando Brown come over, you traded for him 4 draft picks. But then you don't want to pay him top dollar because you don't feel like he may be one of the best players at his position. And now he's frustrated. He's not coming to camp. Now, with that being said, I do think he will get it done because it's either that or you miss out on, I think, $1 million a week, and he can only play $16 million on the franchise tag. So it doesn't make a lot of sense there for me. But let's say he decides to go that route. There are people that the Chiefs feel good about. Joe Thuney has stepped in. He played some left and right tackle. They have a guy. If it's me, if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm hoping that the rookie that we were excited about can come along. And that's Darian Canard, who played left tackle, who played right tackle, who played a little guard at Kentucky, a guy we were really excited about coming into the draft. Surprised he was picked in the 5th round. But this is a guy, if you ask me, I think he understands his role, and I think he's going to do everything he can to best understand what he needs to do going forward with this camp.
So my biggest thing is just understanding what tackles do and what guards do, and just try to do my best to make sure I'm mentally prepared for when we get out there. We're going full speed, everybody. I want to be able to show what I have, but at the end of the day, it's a learning process. Everybody's going to get got one time. We're all out here, the best of the best, but it's just about learning experience and getting better every day.
It's gonna be a learning process for Darian Canard. I was very high on him coming out of the draft. Aaron, you are the draft expert. Do you think his role, he's going to be able to just jump right in and be able to kind of fit right in this Chiefs offensive line?
I don't know if you talk about fitting right in. Offensive line is often about chemistry, right? Building 5 guys together, being on the same page. I think that's what you're trying to build in camp. Some things that he has going for him, I believe Lucas Niang, who had some time in there last year, is starting the training camp on the PUP list, which allows Darian Canard to get a little bit more reps. But to AJ's point, they do have some guys that they can throw in there. They can move around in Osterrieder. I know he's been a backup center. He's a backup center now, but he can play some multiple positions. You can move Joe Thuney outside, maybe put him at guard. Darian Canard is just going to be.
Darian Canard is just going to be a guy
that's
who
going to have to come in when you're at Memphis. This is blocking guys.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? Nothing. Just, was trying to be professional and hop right in there when things are
I can't hear, so what happened?
Oh, yeah. You just cut out. And so, yeah, we just went ahead and jumped in. If his earpiece went out. So, I'm assuming that he understands that Darian Canard is going to have to play his role slowly and come along as the weeks go through. He's right about Niang being injured. He's right about Ryder being moved on. Luckily, they had a Creed Humphrey who's played pretty well for him. But my biggest thing is Orlando Brown was a big part of this entire remake over from that abysmal Super Bowl that they had. They wanted this line to be intact going forward after giving Pat Mahomes 10 years, $450 million. So if they can't get it figured out with Orlando Brown at some point in time, yeah, you may have something this year. You may be able to patchwork it, but you still now have to go back to the drawing board and find a long-term plan if you can't get it done with Orlando Brown.
I think this is the move they were saving the money for. I think this is honestly why they didn't sign Tyreek Hill. They're going to get it done. It's just a matter of time. And to your point, nobody wants to go to camp, man. Listen, these players in the NFL, especially guys that have been in the league 3 years now, they do not want to be at training camp on July 27th, having to get beat up and take hits and do all that stuff. The NFL has changed. These guys want to be fresh. They want to be ready to go come the season. They don't want to go in there and work in this heat. So a lot of them take advantage of the situation that they're in. He has a contract dispute. He didn't sign his franchise tender. I think he has a little bit of time to kind of work things out. I'm not too concerned about Orlando Brown. I do think he's going to be there because when that money starts being, deducted from your account fines start rolling in, it changes people's mindset. So I'm not too worried, but I worry about the unit as a whole, just having that connectivity, being in sync to start the year, right? Slow start maybe for Kansas City if he doesn't get in there right away. But overall, the course of a season, I think he'll be fine.
Another unit on the Chiefs' offensive side of the ball that saw quite a bit of change is the wide receiver position, obviously losing a big piece in Tyreek Hill. Aaron, what does training camp look like at the wide receiver position?
I thought you were going to say losing a big piece in Justin Ross.
Hey, man. Wait, whoa.
He was going to be a boss.
Justin Ross that we're going to get into this here, now that you wanted to do this, you brought this on yourself. We just need to pour one out for Justin Ross, okay? No. This man was going to be a beast. Wide receiver 1. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you for showing some goddamn respect to Justin Ross.
You forgot to actually put the 3 behind the 1. He was going to be wide receiver 13. I believe they have 12 on their roster right now, which is sad. But anyways, let's talk about the Kansas City wide receivers. We've had this conversation all off season. Is it MVS? Is it Juju? Is it Mecole Hardman? Is it Sky Moore? This might be the first time I actually say this. WRBC, wide receiver by committee. It is going to be all of them. There are certain things that you're going to look for from each of these players to fill a role. It's going to be MVS to be making those off-the-top throws over the top for Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be a Mecole Hardman filling in for a Tyreek Hill, running end arounds and bubble screens and getting him into space. Juju's going to be this possession guy. Josh Gordon, if he makes the roster, is going to be, a guy that comes in every once in a while to make a play. And Sky Moore is this rookie that's kind of the unknown. The biggest thing here is I think the question is roster spots. Can Josh Gordon make this roster? A guy who's never played special teams before in his career. I think 5 total special teams plays in his career. A Sky who they love to have promise, but is he capable of getting a spot as a special teams guy that can help create big plays on the offense? We know that he's going to be on the roster, but is he going to contribute? Then you have just a bunch of names: Justin Watson, Darice Fountain. It's really about, are they going to keep 5 or 6 wide receivers? I think with the injury to Justin Ross, it makes it a little bit easier for me. I think they hold on to all 5. I think they keep MVS. I think they keep Juju, obviously, Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore, and I do think they keep Josh Gordon. It is literally going to be a crapshoot every week on who's getting these targets outside of maybe a Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's the one solid foundation piece that you can say he's going to see targets. Everybody else, it could be anybody. It literally could be anybody. And I think this is the first time we've seen this in this Chiefs offense since the days of maybe the end of Dwayne Bowe, when Dwayne Bowe left and there was nobody kind of left there. I think this is the first time we've seen it like this in Kansas City for a while.
I want to bring up a point on one name that you mentioned, just an off-the-ball name, Darice Fountain. Like, that dude was legit at Northern Iowa. I like him a lot. Yeah, Darice, good try. Darice Fountain, he came in. Black card back. Yeah, I got it back. Yeah, freaking Darice Fountain, though. Real talk. Broke in with the Colts a few years ago. Battled a lot of injuries. He came in and was a little bit banged up. He had a great preseason. He's flashed in that area. Not saying the guy's going to be a freaking amazing wide receiver. All I'm saying is the guy has played a little bit and made a couple plays during these months. And like you said, special teams wise, that could kick a Josh Gordon off a roster.
That was tricky, though. I got you now. The only reason Dylan knows his name is because he was a Colt. And he's a Colts fan. Remember, we talked about this.
Fan. I know
you are a Colts fan. If Darice Fountain had been on the Chicago Bears, you would have not known how to pronounce his name.
Nope. But I would have known him if he was a Jag.
He does do the Big City Sports podcast, so that might you picked the wrong team. Not Chicago.
Do you still do that thing?
I don't know. Shout out Big City Sports.
Been on a month layaway.
Chicago sports just hiatus right now. New York sports hiatus. Real quick to end this wide receiver talk and to end the Chiefs talk here, Eric, take me behind the scenes with how training camps go at the wide receiver position. We talked last week about the AFC North and splitting up the work, like the reps for Jacoby Brissett and Deshaun Watson, how that looks. How does it look for a wide receiver group with a lot of fresh new faces and distributing reps and catches and things like that? How does that all work in training camp?
It's about trust. What I'd be interested to look, if I was a Chiefs fan, I'm looking at who was working out with Patrick Mahomes in the offseason. Wasn't it Mecole Hardman? Did MVS and Juju try to come in and say, hey, come out and throw some routes with me to get that timing right? To me, it's strictly about who does Mahomes trust? Who does Andy Reid trust to be where they're supposed to be? Wide receiver and quarterback connection is all about trust. It starts there. It ends with, hey, can you run a route? Hey, can you block this? Can you do that? If your quarterback trusts you to be where you're supposed to be, that's a good starting point. I look to early in the season, I look to see where Andy Reid is lining these guys up and who Patrick Mahomes trusts. If there's practices, we don't like to take a lot out of practice, but if you see practices where an MVS is catching 3 touchdowns that game or that practice, pay attention to that because it's going to show a development of trust between Mahomes and them versus a backup quarterback and that player. So I look for the trust factor to determine who's going to get the reps. I do think Juju will see the first reps no matter what, based on tenure, based on previous ability and kind of production, and then Mecole Hardman because he knows the offense and has been there. But that third spot, Sky Moore, MVS, Josh Gordon, I think it's going to come down to trust factor.
Don't sleep on Mecole, man. Led his career high in receptions and yards last year.
Mecole Hardman is going to be a problem because I know people want to forget him. He's been there, and they do like him. It's not like they don't like him. They trusted him. They kept giving him the ball even when he messed up.
Yep.
Even in the playoffs.
And we do know who AJ's pulling for. WNBA star Sky Moore.
And I'll say the same thing. Sky Moore is going to be a problem. Like, just wait and watch, man. I'm not worried about it. Like, I'm not worried about that take at all.
I see none of us rooting for Josh Gordon.
Sky Moore can't even dunk.
Hey, AJ got the Bob Marley shirt on right now. He's rooting for Josh Gordon, okay? So he's got that low-key Josh Gordon rooting for him.
Hey, I was gonna bang the drum for Josh Gordon earlier too, but it's cool. Hey, they going gangbusters on this offense. Everybody gets the ball. And you get a pass.
Wide receiver by committee. Every game is going to be so
Kelsey's
frustrating.
going to get his.
For fantasy owners, it'll be frustrating. For football fans, they'll get a taste of a bunch of different receivers.
All right. Let's move on to the Las Vegas Raiders, and there is a new face calling the plays on the defensive side of the ball. Patrick Graham comes over from the New York Giants, former defensive coordinator for the Giants, now right behind Josh McDaniels as his defensive coordinator in Las Vegas. And guys, I saw this pop up in the doc, and I'm like, man, let me find some research. Let me dig deep on Patrick Graham. And then I saw this.
Have has your defense gotten accomplished what you wanted to the first 3 practices?
Hell no. Am I allowed to say that?
You just did.
I mean, I'm a coach. I mean, come on. We got a lot of stuff to improve on. No, they're working hard, but no, we haven't. The standard's the standard. The standard's the standard. And, like Coach said, we're trying to build championship habits, and it's a process. So it's an imperfect game, but we're striving to be perfect. And so if you ask me as a coach, no. So, but they're working at it. They're working at it. Sorry for the language. Don't tell my mom.
This dude seems great. How do you not root for this guy?
Love
like
that
all
dude.
and all of his this entire he had a 12-minute presser where like every other question came with some type of laugh and some type of just clowning her. It's great. This guy, I am rooting for Patrick Graham now. Go ahead, AJ.
Two quick things. First off, love the fact that he freaked out that he said hell. Like, that's not normally the one that people freak out about. And secondly, that thumbnail photo of him does not do him justice. I kept looking. I was like, is that the same person?
Yeah, he definitely looked like he packed on a few pounds in Vegas. I
was wondering how that worked because that was what even the Vegas website has as him. And I saw that. I was like, good for him. Good for him, okay? Good for him.
Yeah, he's been working a lot at them strip clubs.
Yeah.
Vegas been offering that extracurricular activity for that man.
Oh, Jesus. We're going to have to – where's the fine print in his contract? He's got to do some certain hours. All right. Patrick Graham, though, comes in, a new defensive coordinator for the Raiders. Aaron, he talked about the process. What does that process look like for Patrick Graham, and what do you expect to see from his new look defense?
I think we're talking about a guy that's looking to change a culture, right? The Raiders defense hasn't been very good over the past decade and a half. I mean, it's been one of those defenses we kind of just overlook. I think with the addition of a Chandler Jones, it's going to allow Patrick Graham to instill the kind of defense he wants. Patrick Graham is a guy who likes to run multiple defenses, is not just some zone or man guy. He likes to mix things up. He primarily will run out of 3-4, which I think is actually going to help Chandler Jones because he's going to have sometimes where he's standing up and sometimes where he's putting his hand in the dirt. And I think with the Chandler Jones and Max Crosby on the outside, I think that helps him create leverage. I think it helps him look in multiple fronts. You're talking about a guy that runs a ton of zone defenses, especially on early downs. Zone defense for a team that doesn't have the best cornerback play over the course of the years, it allows them to keep their eyes in the backfield, jump quarterback routes, and be more aggressive without giving up big plays. And I think that's big for a young defense that struggled over the past few seasons. Go to man on 3rd and long, being able to be physical. I think you just be able to instill his mentality into a team that doesn't know any better. I mean, you're talking about a team that hasn't been very good. So being able to run multiple things, blitz more on 3rd and 4th downs, being able to run mixture coverages out of cover 2, cover 3, cover 6, whatever it is. And then trying to, again, on those money downs, 3rd downs, being able to just tell your defenders, get bodies on them, be physical, and then go make plays. I think that's going to be important for this young defense. And Graham, look, we've seen what he did with the Giants. I think he's going to do great things with the Raiders as well.
I think there's a lot of potential in that defensive group for the Raiders. You obviously talk about Max Crosby, bringing in Chandler Jones, a lot of young players on that defense. Trevon Moehrig is there. We all liked him coming out in the draft. I mean, this is a defense that has a lot of potential, I think. Dylan,
do you see the energy though? Like, I think that's the biggest thing I saw, the energy and what Robert Saleh, every great defensive coordinator, even the Ryan brothers, like, think about the energy that they present when they're on just in front of a camera or in front of their defense. He has that.
Got that drive. That's what he want out of a Raiders defense.
He did it in New York though. Like that team was terrible. And then but
their defense wasn't. Their defense was
right.
Good.
Exactly.
And that started in the secondary. I'll tell you one guy they love. They've raved about him. He's camp started Monday. It's Wednesday morning now. They're all about Nate Hobbs, their slot corner from last year. That dude was a beast, started 9 games for him, and they're raving all about him. A nice little nickel cornerback there to play some slot. I mean, he does everything there on that defensive side. They've been raving about him. They bring in a Rock Yassin. They try to improve that defense at the cornerback position, and then I think there's a lot of promise on the secondary side of things as well.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, they went and got a bunch of veterans. Like, they had some underrated moves that people really didn't talk about. One of my favorite guys that was a free, Jayon Brown, which I believe I had him in my top 20 at free agency. He ended up going there and he wasn't signed at first. Denzel Perriman being there, Chandler Jones obviously coming over, and then you're looking for steps. They added Rock Yassin. We'll see if he can kind of fill that void. But then you're talking about guys that we look to get better. Jonathan Abram maybe being more efficient this year. Trayvon Mullen being a little bit better. I know he's starting on PUP, but hopefully he can come in and take another step forward. I think you're going to see a different team. Again, the energy, the physicalness, just the ability to kind of be multiple is going to be huge for them. And I think what you're talking about is a culture change. Not to mention, let's not forget that he coached in New England. And who is now the head coach? A New England guy. So they're bringing over a different type of culture. They got a New England GM, a New England head coach, and a defensive guy that came from New England as well. I think they're just trying to change that culture, and it's a good start.
Yeah. We could not talk about this big addition for the Las Vegas Raiders and bringing in Devonte Adams, now joining his former college quarterback in Derek Carr. We know the story. We know the love connection. We know the relationship. But what about the adjustments? This is what Devonte Adams had to say about going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr.
I mean, anytime you change quarterbacks from, a Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer, you go, Stabler to Rich Gannon or whoever you go to, it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. And, both are great players and great to be around. So I'm just enjoying that process and getting better myself, trying to do as much as I can to help these guys go out there and win as many games as we can.
So let's skip over the fact that he said that Derek Carr is a Hall of Famer. Let's just skip over that because this is just another receiver, just another teammate showing out for his boy. We've seen Tyreek Hill do it with Tua. We see Devonte Adams doing it with Derek Carr. But his answer to talking about the adjustments with going from Rodgers to Derek Carr was very cookie cutter in my opinion.
Well, you just glossed over the fact he told you everything you needed to know in that soundbite.
He's going to bat for him. That's his boy.
No. Oh, you guys missed it. You guys all missed it. He said it's like going. He even equated to Raiders. He said it's going from Kenny Stabler to Rich Gannon, two Hall of Famers. Rich Gannon was not a Hall of Famer. Mark my words, he wasn't a Hall of Famer. He's calling Derek Carr a Hall of Famer, but he's calling him Rich Gannon at the same time. He's letting him know, like, hey, we think we know he's good, and this is my boy. I'm going to give him credit. I'm going to call him a Hall of Famer, but we know he's not a Hall of Famer. He told you exactly what he was doing in the soundbite. He's very smart man.
He sort of rescinded the comments the next day too. He hopped on. They told him about him, and he basically did. He said, "Look, I understand how some people, the media jumped me for that, and it's going crazy on the social media and stuff." He's like, "Derek's a good quarterback. It's an adjustment when you go from a Hall of Fame quarterback and to another quarterback. Essentially, like it was just going from that." And he said, "There's still an adjustment to be made," which plays off of Vinny's question.
Yeah, like I was gonna say in that soundbite that I had. His answer was, I mean, other than you guys diving really, really deep and trying to read in between the lines, his answer to the adjustments of going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr was almost a cookie cutter, in my opinion. So, AJ, what are the adjustments that Derek Carr and Devonte Adams have to make to build up that chemistry in training camp?
I mean, the best part about this for these guys is that, to me, they're learning a new system together. And some people may say that may be a disadvantage because it would have been nice for Devonte Adams to come in and Derek Carr bring him along and bring him up to speed. But now they get to go through the motions together. Now they get to see what works and what doesn't work. So these type of adjustments with me, we know the relationship. We know the trust they have, and that's the easiest part. But it's just getting these little small intricacies down. The timing routes. Are you there when I need you to be there? Are you there because the ball's there? Is Derek Carr able to throw it on time? Other than that, you're looking at a talented guy. We're talking about a guy that's averaged 119 catches over the last 2 seasons in Devonte Adams. You're talking about a guy that Derek Carr knows is the best receiver in the game, and he's going to be able to just trust his talent more often than not. Something to me that's a little bit more important of an adjustment is if we think back to this team as a whole and what they went through last year, this is really the beginning of a brand new era. And if I'm Derek Carr and if I'm Devonte Adams, I'm thinking of us two as the leaders of this team. And can we bring that energy? Can we bring that work ethic and make sure it's matched by every single person down the line, whether it's the running backs, whether it's the rest of the receivers? Can we make sure that we've looked at this season? We didn't finish where we wanted to last year. We've done everything in our power to make sure we are ahead. Can we bring everybody else along? Devonte Adams is super talented. He's going to be fine. The trust he has with Derek Carr, it's 10 years since they played, by the way. So, let's not act like they're going to come in day one, snap their fingers, and it's going to be magic again. I don't think that's how it works. But I think they have a better chance of rekindling that chemistry faster than a lot of other duos can because their relationship is so strong, because their friendship is on that level, and they don't cookie cutter around their communication and their trust. They're going to make sure they do everything in their power that they're the absolute best they can be starting this season off.
Is it like riding a bike? Like when you go, like when you leave your quarterback and then you come back to him years later, does it just eventually just come back like the connection bike and everything?
Fun fact. He's never left Derek Carr. They work out every offseason together. Yeah. Every single offseason. They're not friends just like, oh, I played with them in college. These dudes are literally like best friends. Like they work out and we know we never see Devonte Adams workouts during the summer because he doesn't post them on. These dudes work out in California together every summer.
I feel like that's a shot at Michael Thomas. It
probably is a shot at Michael Thomas. Thomas supporters come holler at me. But no, real talk. Like, yes, they haven't been on the football field in a game together.
Yeah.
But these dudes have worked out together. Their friendship, their timing, they do have an advantage to AJ's point before coming into training camp saying, oh, we haven't played together in 10 years. They do have an advantage there. I told you being a receiver and a quarterback is all about trust. These two trust each other. I have zero doubts that they'll be on the same page come ready to go week one. I just don't. They're that close.
Yeah. Michael Thomas likes the Red Zone channel too much.
Oof. All right, let's move on to the Los Angeles Chargers. Dylan, you're going to get your chance here. The Chargers added quite a lot this offseason to their defense, making it a very scary looking defense. What defender are you actually most looking forward to seeing in Chargers camp this year?
Yeah, they did add a lot. They added J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack, J.T. Woods even in the secondary. But I'm all aboard Drew Tranquill. Keep a close eye on Drew Tranquill. I mean, Kenneth Murray's on the PUP list right now. They got a stout defense, right? But the linebackers kind of the question mark. They lost Kazir White, who led the team in tackles last year. You get and Drew Tranquill's a great open field tackler. Kyle Van Noy's role, they brought him in sort of unclear. He can play outside, kind of inside. Troy Reeder comes over. He played with Staley in the Rams days. They were both over there. But Tranquill started a career-high 7 games last year, had 76 tackles, 1.5 sacks even. But I think he's a great addition to this defense. And I know he's been there a few years. But I think what he can bring to your team, he's a nice, good tackling, like I mentioned, great open field tackler. But I do question his durability. He had 2 ACL tears in 10 months in college, blew out his ankle in 2020. But I'm saying Drew Tranquill is someone you want to watch on this defense, and he can make that next step as a great linebacker.
Yeah, we saw last year where the Chargers need this linebacking group to step up for them to get to the next level. Like that is, I feel like their key to moving past the either not making the playoffs or not being able to be on like that Chiefs level, or maybe now what it could be the Raiders level too. That linebacking group, you saw in the end of the game against the Raiders that took the Chargers out of the playoffs. Josh Jacobs is running all over him. We talked about Brandon Staley's play calling or this and that. It came down to Josh Jacobs and that Raiders offense just running all over them. So they're going to need a guy like Drew Tranquill to step up and the rest of their defense to make plays to be able to get them to that next level.
To me, the biggest thing for the Chargers, honestly, is going to be for their defense is going to be what it's been for the past 5-6 years. Can you stay healthy? Almost every year going into the season, I look at this defense and I'm like, damn, man, they have some studs. Like back when they had Casey Hayward, like Jason Verrett, like they were prepared on defense. And then everyone gets an ACL tear before the damn season starts. Derwin James goes out again. If they can stay healthy, like on paper, this is almost always preseason one of the better defenses in the league. Then they get hurt, and the guys behind them can't step up to the level of the talent they have at the starter section. So they added a lot. This is on paper, this is a scary defense. If they can stay healthy, they've done a lot on this entire roster, honestly, to make sure they are in contention in one of the hardest divisions in the NFL.
I'm kind of on the other coin there. I think that they're always overhyped. I've never felt like the Chargers were a super talented defense. You mentioned the guys that are super talented. Bosa, Derwin James. Yeah. Casey Hayward was good. Verrett was good for
when they
year
were there.
Or two.
When they were there, though.
But that's what I mean.
That was like 3-4 years ago,
what
right?
What we're talking about isn't the star players. It's the rest of the defense. You got 3 or 4 guys. That's great. But they've always been soft. That's been the Chargers' problem. They're soft defense. And you talk about the linebackers. I don't think this is even a linebacker question. In the NFL, what makes a great linebacker? It's not a guy that can just go in there and wreak havoc. Yeah, that's nice. It's being able to get to the ball, right? How do you get to the ball? The guys up front take the offensive line and eliminate them so they can't get to the next level and actually block those linebackers. To me, the offseason move, the thing I'm directly looking at is Austin Johnson, Sebastian Joseph Day, Christian Covington, Otito Ogbonia. Those guys, 3 brand new guys there in Otito, Austin Johnson, and Sebastian Joseph Day, to take pressure off of those linebackers after losing an Uchenna Nwosu. And you get guys like a Kenneth Murray and Drew Tranquill. You need those guys to be able to roam free and make tackles. Most linebackers in the NFL have the athletic ability, the ability to go make plays, can run sideline to sideline, and make tackles if they don't have 300-pound linemen in their face. Those are the ones that can shed those 300 linemen and still make tackles. Those are the Micah Parsons, the Devin Whites, the special guys. These guys need to be free and be able to make tackles. Those interior defensive linemen cannot get pushed 2 yards off the ball like they were last year. That's why Josh Jacobs was running for 6 yards without being touched. They have to be more physical, and I look directly at Brandon Staley. He's a defensive-minded guy. He's bringing a defensive-minded coach over there, and he's been focused on how can I make Justin Herbert better? How can I go for it on 4th downs? He needs to stop all that. He needs to focus on the defense, get Khalil Mack and the new guys over there to buy in and make that defense more physical. I don't think it's about talent. I think they need to be more physical. They need to play with a meaner attitude. And then I think you see the Chargers take a step forward. And if their defense gets right, this is a Super Bowl caliber team.
That's why I looked at the linebacker position. You mentioned the defensive line, right? And then they drafted Jerry Tillery a few years ago, but they weren't getting any push. You mentioned the physicality. They weren't getting any push. But that's why I think you should have – that's why I think when you go to look at one person, I mean, you already got Kenneth Murray on the pup, and it could be something. He's got an ankle. They don't know his timeline right now. They don't know when he's going to come back. I think you have to look at that linebacker depth, and you're putting Drew Tranquil, who's been a primarily special teams guy the last 2 years. That's got to be the one guy you look at on that defense. Plus, I got a soft spot for the guy. Fort Wayne, Indiana, Carroll High School, Notre Dame football. I'm closer to him than Jesse Bates, so that's how I feel.
Oh, my. See him at the bowling alley? Is that what it is?
He's not at the bowling alley.
No, baseball fields? Nothing?
I will talk to you guys about personality after the show.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go one more thing on this Chargers on the offensive side of the ball. We just talked about the trenches now on the Chargers side. Trenches for the offense. Right tackle, AJ. What's that battle looking like in Los Angeles?
Yeah, this right line last year was abysmal. Like, they had Storm Norton over there. It was way more of a tropical depression. Tied for second in the league. 9 sacks allowed, just getting beat up over and over again. And it was a big part of why Justin Herbert, even having the year he had, imagine what he could have done if he wasn't on the ground that often thanks to Storm Norton. But now that left side, on the other hand, was a whole different story. And this year, I think Storm Norton is going to be pushed to the back. And you're looking at a guy like Trey Pipkins who can come in and possibly take over. Played pretty decent for him last year, but not to the point where he's the automatic plug-in, which is okay because now they've got a guy like Jamari Slayer, the guy out of Georgia, 6'3", 331, ready to come and bulldoze. He's more of a guard-style guy. And what I liked about that is they've already got their right guard in Zion Johnson. And if you look deeper to why they drafted him, now this line can become more versatile. So you got your center in Ryan Lindsley. You got your guy in Rashawn Slater, who was a plug-and-play left tackle. Their guard, Feitler, let me not do that. You got your left guard.
Matt Filer.
Who can play all over the line. So now if you can move him to right tackle, you have Jamari Slayer on the left guard, and now you have 4 or 5 guys that you can trust to be a unit. And even if the Zion Johnson being young, we know he's talented and ready to go. This is a line you feel a lot better at. You don't have to force a Pipkins or a Storm Norton back in there until, unfortunately there's injury problems or something of that nature. So if Jamari Slayer can come along, if Trey Pipkins can prove that he can be a rotational piece, this line, it won't even be a patchwork. You actually feel really good about the movement you can make on this line to make sure week in and week out you have solid trenches to protect Justin Herbert on side of his back-to-back MVP wannabe campaign. Just saying.
Jamari Salyer, not Slayer.
But Slayer sounds so much better.
And Corey Lindsey.
Did I say Ryan?
Yes. But I actually do think Jamari Salyer is going to end up being their right guard, and I think Zion Johnson eventually be their right tackle. That's just my opinion. I think that's what gives them the most versatility and the best when you have those bookends to protect your quarterback. Because I do think Jamari Salyer will end up making a push. But yeah, just had to correct AJ.
He should definitely change his name to Slayer. It sounds way cooler.
Corey needs to be Ryan. That's what we're all. We're changing. That's what's happening.
Changing all the names. That's how they do a good line. Change all the names.
Yeah. Let's finish off the AFC West with the Denver Broncos. There's only one place to start with the Broncos. It's Russell Wilson now with he's got the whole world in his hands in Denver. He has the keys to the city. They are loving him, every bit of Russell Wilson. He comes in now. He gets the keys to the city, but what are the key focuses for Russell Wilson heading into his first camp with the Denver Broncos, Aaron?
This is not going to be one of my normal little takes about a quarterback or whatever. I think Russell Wilson is under an extreme amount of pressure.
Yeah,
at the quarterback position. This is a guy that won championship in Seattle with a great running game, a great defense. And then the minute they turn him over to be this gunslinger, throw it around the field, you take control of the offense, he never quite got his team over the hump. We've seen this from a number of quarterbacks, and I think we're in that same situation now with the Russell Wilson. He has got to take this team that had an elite defense last year. We've all lauded the running back situation in Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, talented outside guys, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler. And now you were talking about you've been one quarterback away. They went and got Peyton Manning back in 2000 and whatever. He did what he was supposed to do and won a Super Bowl. I think we're right now with the Russell Wilson. He has to get Denver to a Super Bowl. I'm only looking for one thing, and that's productivity and resulting in wins. I don't care about nothing else. I don't care what his connection is with Jerry Jeudy week 1. Is he going to take them to the playoffs? Is he going to make a deep playoff run? And are the Denver Broncos going to be in the Super Bowl? Because I believe they have a roster to do so if Russell Wilson's at his best. But Russell Wilson has to prove it. I think he's under a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I agree.
I saw someone talking the other day. It was like, who's under the most pressure in the AFC West? Is it Derek Carr or is it Russell Wilson? And I was like, I don't think it's close, to be honest. Like, I get it. Like Derek Carr is like, he's just been Derek Carr. Like,
you know who Derek Carr is.
Derek Carr is Derek Carr. Russell Wilson is known as an elite quarterback, one of the best in football.
And like you said, where he's now being put into the position, like this could like cement his legacy. I don't think it's going to hurt his legacy, like to where he's not going to be like a potential Hall of Famer. Like it's not going to like absolutely kill.
If Russell Wilson does not go to the Super Bowl and produce with Denver, he is not a Hall of Famer, and he won't make the Hall of Fame.
Really?
Mark my
I
words.
agree. This may be like looking too deep or looking for something, but I honestly do sometimes think back to not giving Marshawn the ball because you wanted Russell Wilson to be the hero. And since then, granted, a lot of things has changed, but since then, Russell Wilson has come up short time and time again. And despite not having the defense anymore, at that point, it's on you anyways. You got the money you wanted, and then it took a year for you to be talking about going somewhere else. Now you're somewhere else. You've got weapons around you again. You can say what you will about that offensive line for now. You got to do it now because he's never. This is the first time he's been vocal about having a problem, and it got fixed. So now you have to produce. I think you're completely right. It's not even close between him and Derek Carr. Russell Wilson is probably, to me, the quarterback under the most actual pressure in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think we talked about the NFC West last week. And we talked about Drew Lock, Geno Smith coming in, and there was some Seahawks fans that let us know, and we appreciate everyone who supports and comments and everything, and came in and said, Seattle has always been built like this. Strong defense, good running game, and then the quarter, like Russell Wilson just doing what he has to, like never really like going like that much above and beyond. Now Russell Wilson is getting everything, like over the years, it's always been about let Russ cook or doing this and that for Russell Wilson. Well, guess what, Russ? You got it all. Put up or shut up. One other note on the Denver Broncos side of things. Did you have one last point?
I just wanted to point out again, like Russell Wilson has never won a championship as the guy. And I think that's what we need. We talk about Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers. When everything's on your shoulders now, you win a championship. He doesn't have that. His championship game in year 2, when it was the Legion of Boom running game, he threw like 20 times a game. We talk about it with Dak Prescott. We talk about it with Russell Wilson. We talk about it with all these guys, even Big Ben before. One when he was young, defensive running game, but then he got that one against the Cardinals when he was flinging it all over the field. So I think this is where Russell Wilson has to cement that legacy to be a Hall of Famer.
Am I a jackass for saying Joe Flacco?
He's better than Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
right, but I mean, like based on his title,
he's had more success, long-term success as a player than Joe Flacco.
Jackass confirmed. But Dylan, here's a chance for you to here's your chance to save yourself on this last Denver Broncos point. New defensive coordinator Ivero, boom, nailed it, stuck the landing. Coming in as their new defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos. What should we be expecting under his reign in Denver?
We should be expecting a better pronunciation guide. But Ivero, he's a 41-year-old, first-time DC. Spent 5 years in L.A. coaching the safeties, the secondary, all that stuff. I tell you what you're getting with Ivero, he's very creative with his personnel. This guy, he said he plans to rotate pass rushers. They drafted that Nick Benito kid, second round, 2022 out of Oklahoma. He's going to mix him in along with Bradley Chubb. along with Chandler, or rather Randy Gregory when he comes back in Denver to the mix over there. I even got a quote from him right here. It's a factor who's playing best. He said, you get a good rotation and you want to keep guys fresh. When you rush the passer, interior or exterior, it's one of those deals that is more tiresome than people think. Depth is always good. Listen, fellas, they got a lot of depth on this defense. And Denver, they can go a long way. I think even with their defense, let alone, I mean, they got Justin Simmons. They got other pieces on that defense that are legit. He's going to rotate the pass rush. With his experience of coaching the Rams secondary and their safeties and all that over the last 5 years and his creative drive, Broncos fans should be stoked to have Mr. EE in the building.
EE. E-I-E-I-O.
A lot of vowels.
I agree. I like the youth that they brought in there. I like the not same and not no. Vic Fangio's a great defensive mind and he did great for that defense. But I like the fresh face and new kind of like we're gonna run things differently. And the depth on the defensive line is always important. It's one of the most important things in football. So I agree.
Yep. Way to stick the landing, Dylan. Way to end the show. I'm very proud of you. That does it for another episode of the Sac City Podcast. We'll be back again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time right here on YouTube covering the NFC North and their training camp previews. Until then, for your boy AJ Johnson, for my best friend Aaron Mukes, and for the smoothest voice in sportscasting, Dylan Kearns, I am me. We will see you tomorrow.
Peace out.
We're on to Cincinnati.
We know we are a much better team than we came up and represented ourselves. That's what we call a sack lunch. Nom, 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 nom.